Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and today I'm hanging out with Hope. LaVelle, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
You work in the film and TV industry. Also,
hmm
you're on quite a few stream games, and it's super cool. When I was looking over your bio, I'm like, oh, I know what these things are. You're actually too cool to be on my show.
Never. Just cool enough.
So it's cool enough. So how's your apocalypse going?
You know what? I feel very blessed. It's been rough, but I've been able to keep going, and I just feel super grateful for all the D&D games that I'm in, especially the stream games with like D&D Beyond. I've been super blessed that we've been able to keep going because we do everything through Zoom, so it hasn't really put a hitch in that at all.
Yeah, I feel like, this industry and this kind of our community was like ready for this more so than many others.
I do remember my like first home game being on Zoom instead of being in person, like way back
Yeah.
in like March. It was just like the weirdest thing. Like even though I stream live with D&D Beyond and we do a Zoom playthrough, like playing a home game over Zoom took some getting used to, and I didn't like it at first, but now I'm just completely used to it.
Yeah, I mean it definitely is something to get used to. So real quick before we really get into things, do you want to kind of like let people know who you are and where they can find you and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Well, hi, my name is Hope LaVelle. I am a D&D player. I play on Silver and Steel, which is a show with D&D Beyond. We play every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. PST. And today's Tuesday, so you can catch us later tonight, which would be super cool. You can find me on Twitter at the Hope LaVelle, and you can keep up to date with all the other things I'm doing. I'm also on a D&D podcast called Attackers of Opportunity, which is just another D&D game that we play, and I play a really cool monk. You should check her out. You can find that anywhere that podcasts are found.
And we've got some links in the description to make it a little bit easier for you to find those things. So, you're kind of like a real life monk as well.
I like to think so.
Being a stunt person, have you done a lot of martial arts training?
Yeah, I have. I've ever since I was in. Actually, I didn't start until like high school, where I watched The Karate Kid, and my brother and I were just like, let's learn karate,
Yeah.
yeah. And so we did. So I did karate for a couple of years, and then I found kung fu, and I fell in love with kung fu, and I studied that for a couple of years. And then once I moved out to LA, I got really into parkour, and that was kind of like, oh my god, parkour is like my life now, and I like trained like every day. And it was the one day where uh, someone was like, hey, you're pretty good at parkour, have you ever tried stunts? We need more women in stunts. And I was like, stunts? Well, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I kind of just fell into it. Ba-doomps. And
Nice.
so then I started training all sorts of martial arts to kind of broaden my portfolio as a stunt performer. So you learn like fight choreography, which is fake fighting for film and TV, and you learn like Krav Maga and like kickboxing, and you learn like just a little bit of everything to kind of, once again, I say like build your portfolio out.
The we have a couple of videos where we actually shoot it in a trading studio. My son's godfather teaches China, Wing Chun, and Tai
Oh,
Chi.
yeah, nice.
He's been
I
doing
love
it
Wing Chun.
a very long time.
Yeah, those are great systems. I love it.
So, you're playing in a bunch of games right now. We were talking about a little bit before we got started. Has that increased since the pandemic, since the apocalypse, or it stayed the same?
Oh yeah, it's definitely increased. And what's really great about it is that now I'm playing with people all over the world, all over the United States, all over the world. I actually just did a game with some people from New Zealand, which was just amazing. Of course, the time difference was a huge thing for scheduling, but the fact that we could all just get together and play, it's been really great. I've got like two home games that are just with people from all over, that just developed because of quarantine and because of the pandemic, which has been a silver lining for sure.
Yeah, we've had a few people on from Australia and New Zealand in the past, and like I'm always mystified when they come on because it is like the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's like 3 a.m. for them.
Yeah, I'm like that's hardcore. Um, so what games are you playing currently?
So, well, what do you mean? Like just they're
Systems are they
yeah,
all
they're
D and
all
D?
D&D. I just finished up a Zweihander campaign, which was my first time playing Zweihander, and I really fell in love with that system. It's very different from D&D, and I there's a lot of things I pulled from it as in role playing sense for D&D, which has been really fun.
Was that a streamed game or was that like a home game?
Yeah, that was a stream game with TT2KB. I don't know if you know them, tabletop to keyboard. Um, but yeah, that was a stream game, and it was like a 4 hour long stream game, which is a lot longer than I'm used to streaming.
Oh
So
yeah,
that was a big thing. I was like, oh wow, 4 hours streaming, that's a lot. But it was such a fun game that the time just flies by.
yeah. I think usually we play like 2 to 3 hours is like a sweet
Hmm.
spot for
It is, yeah,
online.
yeah. Home games you could go for 4 or 6 hours, and it works fine for me.
Yeah, in the before times we used to play usually like 5 6 hours. I would say is the
Yeah.
average. We'd get together around 6.
Mhm.
We'd end up around 11 midnight,
Mhm.
and also like the difference between online and offline. I would say too is like offline, like it's not 6 hours of playing. Where online, yeah,
Mhm.
like you pretty, it's pretty is a lot. It seems a lot more focused to me.
Yeah, yeah, my home games, I mean, we'll get together at, like, 7 or 8, and we'll literally just chat and hang out for, like, the first hour, and then we finally get started, and then we play for, like, 5, 6 hours, so, yeah, and it's a lot more casual and a lot more fun to just kind of goof off with your friends.
So, do you prefer minis or theater of the mind?
I prefer theater of the mind. I do love pulling out minis in a board when it comes down to really complicated like fights and like battles and stuff. I think it does help sometimes. But even playing battles in theater of the mind, I have a very strong imagination, so I'm really good at like remembering where everybody is inside battle and stuff. But pulling out minis every once in a while is a nice change.
Yeah, I mean that's how we used to do it for the most part. Is mostly theater of the mind, and then more complex combats break out the minis.
Mm-hmm.
And now, so with your games online now, are you guys using like a virtual tabletop or theater of the mind?
It's all theater of the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing like a mix of theater of the mind and other stuff. So Ted's recently started like when he runs, he'll set up scenes and then turn on another camera,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. Oh,
then
yeah. I love that. I love having a camera, right? Just an extra camera on the map.
yeah. So he'll have like the terrain set up and the minis, but he also likes crafting and stuff. So
Sure.
now he's like he started this game. I have an excuse to craft, and then we all went online. So
Oh no. Yeah, I
yeah.
love D4. I'm sure you guys know of D4.
Hmm.
They have their live games on Sundays, and they make some of the most beautiful terrains and minis and stuff that I've like ever seen. They put so much work into it, and they are like a weekly show, and so they're like constantly having to craft new maps and stuff, and it just blows my mind every time that they like post like this was our map for the week, and I'm like, you guys made that in a week, or probably like 2 weeks
Yeah.
over a course of time. But I'm just like, that's amazing that they can keep up with that.
Yeah, I like when we were out in LA, we were there for like I think it just happened to coincide with the Maze Arcana like season
Mm-hmm.
finale or whatever, and they did like the whole like room for what is it? I think Baron, whatever the bear one is for Eberron, and it was
Right.
so amazing. And also like they just had like actual like set people build it for them.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So like they had to assemble it in 4 parts, and it had like all kinds of like electronics and stuff in it. And then whenever I see like these huge like Dwarven Forge setups, it like as a player I'm like, oh, that would be so cool to play in. But as a DM, I'm like, no, I don't think so. I just know my players are they would just be like, I'm not leaving the tavern. And
Oh
you'd
no.
have like, you just have this like giant table with a cloth over like this huge dungeon.
Oh no. Yeah, it's so sad when you like create a nice huge world and yeah, the players don't explore like but a quarter of it.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you prefer homebrew or do you prefer, pre-written stuff?
I love homebrew. I have a strong appreciation for all of the like created content, but when it comes to like my own games or like being in games, I love a good homebrew.
Do you have a preference as far as what whether you're GMing or as the player?
So definitely as a GM, I'll always do homebrew. Like not like that's the way I think. That's the way I am. Like I'm a storyteller, so I like coming up with worlds and like really interesting stories that are like um, just really unique for the players. Because I'm sure a lot of my players have they've been in the Forgotten Realms forever, and they know that world really well. So I like to like throw a curveball and be like, well, in this world,
Yeah.
it's something completely different.
Do you think it's better as a player to go into a homeroom like that as someone that's a part of that world, or more like a fish out of water?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like the fish out of water is a really fun way to like play the fact that you are discovering as like the players are discovering this world, so therefore their characters could also be discovering this world. I don't want to throw an entire history, an entire like world building, like throw all this like content at them and be like, okay, your character knows all of this stuff, but instead they can come in being like, oh, this is like we're in a new city, we're in a new world, we have a lot to discover, and they can kind of pull all that information as they go.
Yeah, like so, like I'm running a homebrew now, and called Court of Worms, and it's like all scaly races, and there's like these celestial dragon emperors that kind of rule things. And like, in hindsight, I'm like, I think it would have been better if I could have figured out a way to have the players interact with this world and not have them part of it from it, so like you don't
Yeah.
have to be like, here, read my 500-page world Bible so you know
Yep.
everything.
Yep. Yeah, keep it simple for the players. They already have their backstory. I would give them enough information that if they wanted their backstory to kind of be tied into the world a little bit, then
Yeah.
you can give them that. But I really love the look on players' face when they're discovering something for the first time.
Well, also too, it's like if you can get them to discover it through gameplay, they're more likely to remember it and maybe incorporate some of it into what's going on. Whereas if you just like info dump them,
Yeah.
they're like, I know once a DM starts doing that to me, like I check right out.
Yeah, I had this one game that I DM'd. It was D&D, but everybody started in the 80s in
Mm-hmm.
like New Jersey, of like 1980 New Jersey, and they all got to be kids, like runaway kids on the streets. And they were like a ragtag group of people. And then like one night, like a mysterious fog rolled in, and they followed this fog, and inside the fog it led them to like this mystical magical world. So they were all playing like 80s kids, but
Yeah.
in like a Forgotten Realms kind of world. So it was like completely homebrew, but it was just like the most fun I've ever had in a game because it was just so different.
Why New Jersey? I feel called out a little bit here.
It just seemed like it had a lot of character. New Jersey has a lot of character.
It's got a lot of characters in it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So Doug wants to know most looking forward to for games and gaming in 2021.
What am I most, what I'm most looking forward to in 2021 is hopefully, like maybe towards the end of the year, definitely conventions, coming back to conventions and being able to get together with friends that I only see over Zoom, like all over the world, to us actually coming together and being able to game in person. Like I know that with my Silver and Steel crew and my Beyond Heroes crew, we've never, like, we hardly, like, there was a point we had never met in person, and it was because of conventions like D&D Live or Gamehole Con that we actually got to come together and play in the same room. And that was like, that's one thing I look forward to the most in like all of my gaming career. I'm just like, I can't wait to get together with people at conventions and play games with you.
Do you have a favorite convention?
Dragon Con is my favorite convention, which isn't really a gaming convention, but it's definitely one that I grew up on, which is in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's on my radar to at least get there once.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really fun con. I definitely want to check out. I want to do Gary Con. I want to do PAX. I want to do. I love Gamehole Con. Gamehole Con was really great. It's such a friendly convention. So I had a really great time there, and of course D&D Live, which I guess is like a convention. That is just such a good time.
Yeah, I did Gamehole Con for the first time in 2019,
Mm.
and that was a lot of fun. It was a convention I did the most convention-y stuff at.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny. We must have passed each other there.
I'm
That was
sure because it's not like a huge convention.
no, it's not, which is what I love about it. It's got everything you need without being just overwhelming.
I don't usually do a lot of gaming at conventions, and that one I feel like I did the most at.
Mhm.
I did get some in at the last PAX Unplugged as well. Rich Lescaflair ran Esper Genesis for us,
Ooh.
which is like a 5e science fiction
Oh,
game.
cool.
And then what was the other one? The other one was I think we were just talking about it with Lisa Penrose yesterday. It's
Oh,
like
cool.
Mission Op or something like that, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of like a very rules light, but it's like basically like Archer is the best way to describe it. You're just like
Okay.
spies, but also
Okay.
like office workers, and you go on a mission. And really, it's like you have when you the game is debriefing the mission and like trying to like throw shade on the other players and show how they were the worst operative, so they're the ones that get off and not you.
Oh, that's funny. That sounds fun.
It was a lot of fun. Um, so what do you think the differences are for you when it comes to playing games on stream and off stream?
Ooh. I feel like um one thing that my home game on Sunday nights with TJ Storm have really developed over Zoom because he loves to use the filters
Mm-hmm.
and he has downloaded a million filters. So like when he's playing a an NPC that's like an orc or something, he actually has like an orc face that comes on, or he's got like dwarven face, like that gives you a big beard, or
Yeah,
he'll play ghosts and stuff, and he actually has a filter that makes him look like a ghost, and it's the funniest thing, but it really adds to the immersion um, of like the theater of the mind. So I think that's something that I've come to really enjoy. Just using technology in your favor. So I don't know. I forgot the question, but that was something I really enjoy.
streaming basically streaming versus playing offline home games.
Yeah. I there's nothing better than being around a table with everybody and that energy that you can feed off of. I do like on the streaming games, like you get to see everybody's face like the same. Everybody's like, you're connected to everybody. You can see everybody at the same time, and I think that that's kind of cool, like to have like that feeling from sometimes when you're around a big table with like 6 or 7 people. It's
You
it's a
can't
little
focus
different.
everywhere at
Yeah,
once.
exactly.
Yeah, well, I do feel like gaming online, whether you're streaming or not, it does kind of zoom you in like
Yeah,
to the game, right?
it does. Yeah.
Um, and focuses it. Like I feel like 2 hours of gaming online is like 4 hours of gaming offline.
That is a really good point. Yeah, I think my attention span, like I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Like sitting at a computer with like, yeah, there's something different about. I guess it's that energy because you're only, you're in your room by yourself. So I think there's that different energy. You're right. It does make it feel a lot longer than if you're sitting around the table with your friends.
Well, I guess not so much that it makes it feel longer. It's just that like you're more focused on the game Like there's
Oh
less,
yeah.
yeah, there's, at our like regular games, there's like us being immature and making stupid jokes and
Yeah, yeah. Once you start playing, it's like, okay, we're all here. We're focused. I
yeah.
get that. I definitely see that now. I think about it.
So, but I mean, that being said, like that's part of the kind of, I don't know, the charm of playing in the home game as well is like the social aspects of it
Sure. Yeah,
where
like with home games, you get to, one of my favorite things is that we all order dinner together and we all get food and snacks and stuff like that. That's always one of my favorite aspects of it because it feels a lot more like a family, when you get together and you're sitting around the table and we all get food and we just have a really, it's like a party every time.
pretty much. So, eventually we'll get back to that someday.
Yeah, I feel hopeful for hopefully like the end of 2021. 2022 is going to be great. I say that now with high hopes.
Yeah.
We'll all be back around the table together.
Yeah, for sure. First convention you want to hit?
Well,
Forget when things open up. Just like if this was my first convention, what would it be?
oh, Gary Con.
GaryCon. Have you been to GaryCon?
No, and that's why I really want to go.
Yeah, I was supposed. So we were supposed to have our own convention this year,
Oh, really?
and yeah, so well, last year I guess.
Yeah.
Um, a Halloween weekend. So
Oh, that sounds fun.
yeah, so I was really on the fence on whether I wanted to go to was whether I was going to go to GaryCon or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was getting really close to when things were kind of shutting down. Because like for our convention, we definitely are looking like at GaryCon and Gamehole Con and PAX Unplugged for like the vibe we want, kind of mixed in with like a TwitchCon,
Mm-hmm.
VidCon. Because we had a bunch of YouTubers, streamers, and podcasters that were going to be there, and that was like kind of like the main focus of the event, like
I love
RPG.
that. I love that. Yeah, like there's so many YouTubers that I watch for D&D content and like having that experience of like maybe getting to them, like getting to meet them and maybe even getting to play with them would be huge. Like if I got to play with the dungeon dudes, I
There
would be like I
there
would be
is like a
flabbergasted.
90-80% chance that all of them were going to be there.
Oh
Dungeons
man.
dudes were definitely on the list. They were going to be there. Ginny D was going to be there. Satine Phoenix,
Oh,
Guy Slam.
awesome.
So my greatest fear is we will not be able to get the same lineup again. Like,
I don't know. I think everybody's going to be hungry for
yeah,
conventions. So I wouldn't count yourself short. I think you should
yeah,
definitely try for it when the time is right. I think
yeah.
they will come.
Hopefully, but yeah. So like, and also, honestly, it was just like a big excuse to have a party with all of our friends. So
Yeah, that's always it. That's the best thing. It's like the convention is great, but
yeah,
it's always like the after hours where you get to like, hang with people and play games and stuff that I really
yeah.
covet.
So like, so I've never really went to I've never been to a convention really before we started doing Nerdarchy. Like I think
Mm,
as a kid I might have been to like Wizard World and Philadelphia and stuff like that, but
yeah.
it's not the same. Like I actually feel like they're kind of lame compared to gaming conventions.
Yeah, I definitely like I grew up on conventions. I was very lucky to discover conventions pretty young, like middle school. And they became like my favorite thing because I'm like, I can go to a place with like-minded people and talk about the
Yeah,
things that I like and see people that I like. And like it blew my mind and like I became addicted. So yeah, like conventions have been a really big thing in my life. And I feel very blessed to have gotten to do it from such a young age.
yeah. So yeah, like I said, we came into it late. Ted had kind of been doing conventions and hitting the scene, but like small conventions. And like
Hmm.
when I got started with conventions, like my first one was Origins, then Gen Con 50.
Ooh,
Um, and then I think then after that was like PAX Unplugged. And then
yeah.
um
Yeah, I hear a lot of good things about Gen Con. I hear like that's the number one that everybody talks about. Like I
yeah.
really want to go.
So like when I go to most of these conventions, I rarely do the convention stuff. Most of it is just like networking and hanging out
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
afterwards. So 2020, my liver got such a break. Uh, so um but yeah, so Ted had gone to like his biggest convention to that point had been like he would go to the Steampunk World's Fair every year. It's like,
Ooh, that sounds fun.
yeah, so it's like four hotels in like North Jersey, Central Jersey area,
Hmm.
and then like we kind of the first convention we went to together was PAX Unplugged, and it was the first year, and I was like kind of disappointed because I was like, well, this is PAX. PAX is supposed to be really big, but like my last couple conventions were Origins and Gen Con,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is kind of small, and he was like, this is huge. This is the biggest convention I've been to.
Oh,
I'm like,
really?
well, wait till you go to Gen Con because that's like the whole city is the convention.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. Big conventions have their pros, but small conventions also have their pros, like pros and cons for both, but they both bring something different. The energy is different. So it's like I love big conventions for some reasons, and I love small conventions for other reasons. So I think that they both have a perfect place in the world. They can coexist.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Gamehole Con might be my favorite so far.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that was a really good convention. Nice and great size.
it's like intimate. I think like
Yeah.
intimate is the best way
That's
to
a good way to
describe it.
that's a good way to describe it, yeah. And I can't tell you how many people I got to meet at Gamehole Con because there weren't a ton of us. Like it was just like, oh my gosh, you're here, I'm here. It's like this
Yeah.
is so great. I'm finally meeting all these people that I know online, that I only know online. I finally get to see you guys in person, and it's just like, oh, it's magical.
So switching gears a little bit, what is the favorite character you're currently playing?
Well, obviously I have to say Penelope Halfpint, which is my druid, my halfling druid that I play on Silver and Steel. I think she's adorable and wholesome, and very silly, and she's very naive and innocent, and I absolutely love playing that character because uh, she's just so much fun because she never takes anything too seriously. If anything bad happens, she's a big optimist. So and I just love making people laugh. So if I ever get that moment to like
Yeah.
catch people off guard or say something funny, like she's not a brooding character who would never make a joke kind of thing. So I absolutely love her.
What subclass?
She is Circle of the Moon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Um, so we were talking a little bit before we got started about GMing, and you said you're kind of like gearing up and want to GM something
Yeah.
in the near future, as a home game or as a stream.
Yeah, so I definitely want to do like just like I would love I if I'm gonna do a campaign, like I would love to do just a home game, like not streamed.
Yeah.
But I would really like to GM some one shots. Like I feel like that, kind of dipping your toe in the water kind of thing. I got to DM a one shot for Scraticus streaming a long time ago. I think it was at the beginning of last year. And it was just like, it was a really, really fun experience because we're doing it for charity. And like GMing for charity was just like, I don't know. I definitely got addicted to it. I was like, I need to do this more. I really love storytelling, and doing one shots has a lot, I guess, it's not as overwhelming, and you can come up with really cool ideas that are only going to last like one session. So
Yeah.
you can have a beginning, a middle, and an end to your story, which I really like, being able to button it all up. So I would love to GM more one shots, and then hopefully like be able to build my ability as to be a DM and become a better DM by like doing a home game.
So what kind of game do you want to run?
Um, what kind of game do I want to? Yeah, I mean, like in D&D, I would like to play. Like, I love the high fantasy. I love games. As far as D&D goes, I love games that, as much as I love combat, I love puzzles too, like mysteries and stuff. So I would love to like be smart enough to come up with good puzzles and like a good mystery for my players to have to solve. That's one of my weaknesses, though. I try to come up with good puzzles, and I'm not that very I'm not very good at it.
That's
Like,
what the internet's for.
I know. I do a lot of studying on like how to make a good puzzle for D&D. Like just good enough. My players will feel satisfied in in breaking the puzzle or like figuring it out, but still like hard enough that they have to struggle with it, and it's a really hard balance. I have our home game on Sunday nights with TJ Storm. His puzzles are so hard. They're so hard, and it's really satisfying when you do get them, but sometimes we'll spend sessions and sessions trying to solve one puzzle and like get through one door, and we're just like, God, I can't figure it out. So, but they are pretty good.
Even when I do, like, if I do make a puzzle, I don't always make the answer.
Oh, really?
So, like, I'll just like come up with something that I think is kind of cool for the players to interact with, and then I see what they come up with, and then
Interesting.
then like I'll just be like, whatever the coolest like option that they figure out is, I'm like, yep, that was it.
Ooh, what a good idea. I like that. I think I kind of like that better because you get to reward them for thinking creatively. Um, and if it makes sense, then yeah, that's a great idea. And that takes off so much like stress for me to like come up with a complete puzzle. I can just like throw something at them and then let them literally figure out the puzzle for me.
Yeah, and also like, I mean, it pretty much comes from years of like agonizing watching them trying to figure something out, and like the game comes to like a screeching halt as they try and work their way through something. Or even if I come up like with an idea of, what I think the answer could be or what the answer is, like I'll write it down like off to the side and wait to see what they come up with. And if they come up with something just as good or better, I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's really smart. I have that's one of my favorite. I think that's one of my favorite memes. Is like it's like the players like, you must have this world completely figured out. You've probably prepared everything, haven't you? And then it's like behind the GM screen, there's just a sticky note that says, "Sexy goblin."
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like nothing. There's like nothing else. So I think it's good to be prepared, but you want to be not overly prepared, so that,
Yeah.
you don't railroad your players. Like that's my least favorite thing, is to railroad players. Like let them explore, go with the flow, be able to improv whatever happens, like understand your world enough that letting the players just, do what they want to do and feel like they have control over the game.
Yeah. So Doug is our content director, and I think he's articulated the best like how I feel about it. Like I'm just here to help the players facilitate the story that they want
Yeah.
to play
Yeah, you got to
or
remember that
tell.
you're telling a story together, So,
Yeah, it's easy for DMs to kind of get trapped into, my story, my world. It's got to be this way.
mhm.
Like, speaking of memes, like one of my favorite ones about puzzles is someone asking, like, for help with puzzles, and they're like, find a kindergarten puzzle book for them and use that. And then the person comes back, you're like, you're so mean. And then they come back from after having the session and running a puzzle. You're like, oh my God, you're so right. Because without fail, you'll like come up with this great puzzle, and like they just won't get it, and then you'll come up with a puzzle that you think is like super hard, and like they guess it in 5 seconds, and you just never know what it's going to be.
That happened to me recently. Like I worked really hard on a puzzle and
Mm.
like my players went in and in 5 seconds they completely had it solved. I was like, "Oh," and that was Lauren Urban who like figured it out, and I was like, "Ah, Lauren, you figured it out," which I was really happy about, but I'm like, "I worked hard on that puzzle."
Yeah, I was sure this was going to take up half the session.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, wait, when you are in the GMC, do you prepare a lot?
I prepare a lot, but I prepare in the sense of like, no matter where they go, I'll have something interesting for them. But like I kind of keep myself from preparing too much, again, because I don't want to like railroad the story. I don't want to be like, okay, then they'll go here and then they'll go here and then this will happen and this will happen. But especially for like one shots, like you want to have like a beginning, a middle, and end for like a one shot, but you don't want to, again, railroad. Like one of the most recent games I did, was at a carnival. And so I prepared every single carnival booth just in
Yeah.
case they wanted to like stop in and like play a game or like look at an attraction. And of course they wanted to go straight to like the main event. And I was like, but I wrote something really cool for this. And you could get something really cool for doing this. Of course I don't say that, but in my brain I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I worked hard on that.
Oh, that feels like a great like kind of set piece that you can pull out from time to time,
Yeah.
even if you didn't want to use the main adventure to it.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely sounds like a lot of fun. So
Mm-hmm.
so like Ted ran a fan game recently. He had the opposite problem. Um, there's like the obvious light shining,
Mm-hmm.
exclamation mark floating above the actual adventure,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the rest of town, and they're like they did everything but go to the adventure, and it was like a one shot. So it's like,
Oh no.
yeah, whenever you're running a one shot, in my opinion, you just have to remove anything that can distract them from doing the thing because you have a limited amount of time if you want to get it done. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point. I find like one of the one shots that I got to run at the beginning of last year had this really cool story and a lot of things happened. And then for the most part, they followed everything. But when they did get sidetracked, I'd have to like pull out something and like throw away something for them to like get to the end on time.
yeah,
So it's about that time management. And like that's one of my biggest thing is like pacing. Like I like to make sure that the game doesn't lag, because I'm one of those people who likes to keep the energy up, likes
yeah,
to keep
yeah.
things moving. So I'm like one of those DMs and who will like kind of push the players along. If they're taking too long to do something, I'll incite some sort of event to kind of keep them moving.
Blow something up.
Yeah, exactly. And suddenly an explosion. Whoops.
I don't know why. Yeah, like that game. I think it was like a 12th level game, and he's like, mundane equipment, whatever you want. Don't even have to think about it. And here's like the magic items you can have, or whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
First thing they get to town, we want to shop. He's like, shop. What do you mean? What is shop?
Oh my gosh, I hate shopping episodes. I hate shopping sessions. I am not a shopper. I'm one of those people who, in my brain, I'm like imagining my character, and I think about everything that I have on my person. I have to, like I'm literally carrying everything. So if we go and we have this big shopping thing and we're about to go on this huge adventure, we're like, okay, well, how many health potions do you have? I'm like, well, how many could I literally carry? Like I can, and, unless I
Yeah.
have a bag of holding, like I am like very sparse with what I carry. Because I'm just like, I actually picture my character having this huge backpack. And then we get to this like wall that we have to climb. And I'm like, I'm going to be so heavy. I'm like holding all of this stuff, or like I have to run. I'm like, oh, I can't run with a backpack on. Like, it's so hard.
You're not supposed to think about that stuff.
I know, but it's like stuck in my brain. I think about that.
I feel like so for the in-game shopping, like Master of the Game Juices in the chat. He's like, I love game shopping and game shopping. And I feel like there's like you either love it or hate it. I feel like there is no middle ground.
Yep. We and my Sunday game with TJ Storm, we just spent 3 6-hour sessions shopping because we're about to go on this huge adventure. So he's like, make sure you have everything you need, because he's one of those DMs that's like, if you don't have it, then you're gonna like, there will be consequences for not having this thing. So we spent, and it was just like, for me, I was like, but I have other players in that game that were like, I love shopping, yay!
Yeah.
So I get it.
Well, yeah, like one of the best things I heard a GM say to me was like, "You guys are like 10th level adventurers. You know what the deal is. You have whatever you need. Like you're not counting arrows. You don't have to worry about if you have rope. Like,
yeah,
and,
yeah."
And to that effect, it's like, well, yeah, like we play these games and we live in these characters for a few hours at a time. But like they live in those worlds all the time. They would just know what to do where we're not thinking about it. Like maybe we haven't gamed in 3 weeks. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm one of those GMs who's like, yeah, it makes sense that you would have this on you, or you don't have to say that you had this on you for me to understand that you probably did have it on you, or like I'll allow it. That makes sense, kind of thing. But There will be some items I'm like, I don't think you have that on your person.
Yeah, like if it's something weird or bizarre or out of the norm, then yeah, probably not. But
Hmm.
most of the mundane stuff. And personally, I would much rather be like just I don't know. They're just transactions. Just go make them
Yeah,
and
it's
have
true.
what you want.
What are your thoughts on like an artificer, like who actually has like creates things and like has all these gizmos and gadgets? Like I that's a class that really scares me because like I'm just like so many so many things that you should be carrying to make things and I don't know how to like
How
gauge
would you?
what's yeah, like how much do you allow them to have or because you want them to be creative with them like
Yeah.
casting spells through it and stuff, but how much do you allow kind of thing?
So I really liked the addition of the Artificer in third and Ebron and kind of
Mhm.
like what it brought to the game.
Mhm.
Um, and we used to be like real sticklers for like what are you carrying? How are you carrying that? And
Yeah. Mhm.
we've definitely gotten away from that. Um, just because we just don't find bookkeeping all that fun.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
true.
yeah, it really just depends on what kind of game you're playing. If you're playing a grittier game or not, and
Mhm.
then they might have to figure out like how are they bringing stuff with them. Do you have a wagon? Like,
Yeah.
maybe if you're playing a battlesmith, does your Iron Defender have or
Yeah.
saddlebags or something?
Yeah. That's actually a good idea. I have a battlesmith that that's a good idea. I have to think about that. And to
I
carry all my stuff on my my steel defender.
I just started a game because I didn't just start a game, but I've been playing a game where my character died. So I made up an artificer to replace them, and I'm also playing a battlesmith, and
Mhm.
so he rides in the pouch of his battle rue,
Oh.
uh, which is a gnome. So I took the mounted combat feat, and although we don't fight that much in that game, but I'm
Oh.
excited because I have the 7 foot mechanical kangaroo.
See, I love how creative that is and how creative you can be with that class.
Or silly, as the case may be.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I like the artificers, and I guess I don't worry too much about how they're carrying all their stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. That's why they got all those pouches.
Yeah. They got like a Batman utility belt.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like they're like for them though, it's like a suit. It's a utility
Yeah.
suit.
My artificer like carries a briefcase, and
Oh,
that's like
nice.
inside their briefcase they have everything they need.
Like a Jetson briefcase where it just opens up to.
Yeah. Actually had a one time where they actually threw they cast catapult by like
Yeah.
throwing their briefcase and it just kind of exploding with all their gizmos and gadgets and cogs and stuff.
Oh, nice. That is one of my favorite like underrated spells.
Oh my god, it's my favorite. I just love how cinematic it is. I love catapult.
I wanna play a character that uses like alchemist fire and acid and like different things like that and the catapult spell like
Yes.
exclusively.
Yes, I love it. Although the catapult spell, it's not an area of effect spell, is it?
No, it's not. It's just
I
like one
feel like it
target.
should be. Like I feel like it should be. To me when I picture something catapulting and like hitting the ground, it should like explode. Instead of just like hitting a creature. That's how I picture it in my brain, but
That's why you have to use vials of alchemist fire
oh.
to add the explosion.
Ooh.
Although, like in our, we've had some differences of opinion on how that works,
Mhm.
but because in my opinion, if you catapult something in a vial, it'll break. So,
That's smart. I like that.
so David wants to know how do you deal with players who illusion items to sell, transmute materials to sell, and steal from the stores.
I am all for it. I am all for the creative aspect. I'm like, if you think of doing something like that, and you can get away with it. Like there will be roles that need to be made, but I'm all for that. And I love people who want to steal from stores because I'm like, okay, let's see if this works. Let's let's try this out. I'm never going to say no to a player trying to do something. I just either make it really hard or see how creative they can get with it.
The I had it come up in one of my games recently, and the way they were doing it was just dumb. So I had to shut them down.
Yeah.
Not in
Yeah.
the sense that you can't do it, but in the sense you're not going to get away with
Yeah.
it. Like you have to be creative, you have to be clever, you have to
Mm-hmm.
have it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just very like the players like all just in that moment decided to be very murder hobo-y.
Oh
And I'm
no.
like, okay, this is guys, you're getting out of control. So
Yeah.
I had to like shut them down and put make consequences for their actions
Oh, good.
because
Good.
they wanted to steal something in game, but they're like trying to do it right in front of the wizard.
Oh, see, that's where you either make it like I'm not going to stop you from doing it, but there will be consequences.
Yeah. so so I robbed them instead.
Nice. I had that happen where I tried to take an artifact from. We were right in front of a red wizard, a fae,
Yeah.
and I tried to take it and chopped my arm off.
Oh,
I lost my hand for doing that. That was my
yeah.
consequence, and so the whole time now I don't have a hand.
That happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so the last game I was in that a player lost their hand was when I was playing D&D in a castle, and GM Tim was our GM, and there was a mysterious beam of light in this dungeon we were in, and they decided to put their hand in it, and it turned from like I think it was like from the elbow down into a skeletal hand
Oh my
instead of a
gosh,
regular hand,
that's
which
so
was
cool.
yeah, which was cool. It wasn't a big deal, and then a horde of undead appeared. So we began fleeing, and we fled outside of the dungeon. But there was a barrier at the exit that kept the undead in. So he could leave, but his arm couldn't. That was the skeletal part. So he had to have one of us lop off of their arm in order to escape.
Oh my god, that's
So
amazing.
for the rest of the game, he didn't have an arm.
Oh my gosh. That's really cool of the DM to be like, yeah, your arm can't leave. It's undead. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
How creative.
And so like I love that kind of stuff where like you said like you can try whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
but you know there may be consequences for those actions.
Yeah.
And you know as long as the players are willing to accept them. But also too like in the case of the last game, it's like I was like I definitely don't want to reward this behavior because they're going to be doing this with every single NPC, and it was just so silly. Like they were trying to steal a hat of disguise from the wizard, like right in front of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. I'm like, if he was cool enough to have magic items to sell to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be that easy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I always I feel like out of all the characters that I've had to like monitor or reel in, it's always been the rogue. It's always been a rogue.
yeah.
They think they can get away with everything. They're like, I
Well,
sneak. I'm like, you sneak in the middle of an empty room? Like, where are you
yeah.
going?
Yeah. I just sneak. It's on my sheet. I'm sneaking. So it was the same player who also they also tried pickpocketing somebody in the tavern and failed.
Mm-hmm.
Got caught and ran out and then was able to hide.
Oh, okay.
And then ended up befriending one of the pigeons on the roof that they're hiding. So like he ended up with a pet pigeon for a while.
I love it.
Yeah. So you know, you never. Also a new D&D player, and I guess we were talking about that a little bit beforehand, before you got started. Like new D&D players tend to be my favorite because they'll just try and do stuff that other players would not.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah, I think.
then they also like to do things like I think like kind of like especially kids like this like fantasy fulfillment where they always want to steal and
They
murder people.
do. That's so. It's like that's the first thing kids go to.
Yes.
Yeah, I new players are magical. I love playing with new players, getting to watch them grow as they learn the system and kind of learn how things work, and like watching them play for the first time, and kind of seeing them like, well, can I do this? I was like, yeah, you can do that. I can do that. like learning how much freedom they have with the game,
Yeah.
because like there are rules, and a lot of people get turned off. They're like, oh, there's so many rules. I'm afraid that if I have to learn them all. I'm like, you don't really, not to get started, and your DM will help you along the way. But like like I'm in a game that is completely made up of employees at my production company, and a lot of the employees had never played before, and they were brand new players, and it was so fun to watch them like learn and play with people who had been playing for a very long time, and watch them grow. And it's fun to like teach them about like metagaming, like they wouldn't know that. I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you about metagaming and how you guys are kind of metagaming. And then
Yeah.
once they know, they're like, oh, and then they'll tell the other players at like moments, like, no, 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 you're metagaming, you're metagaming. And it's just like fun to watch them learn like that.
You'll have a new player at the table and they're like you'll describe a monster, so they just go to grab the monster manual to
Oh,
look it up.
yeah.
I'm like, no, you can't do that.
That's funny. Yeah, there's been a lot of times where when I was starting out, like the DM would throw out these monsters and they would describe the monster, and not like there'd be some players at the table would be like, oh, I know this monster. I know that they're resistant to fire or whatever. But for me, I'm just like, what is this thing? I'm just gonna throw fire at it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So,
Trolls are always fun for the new player to figure out.
oh yeah.
They just keep hacking it and it just keeps growing back together. So in that game, what is the ratio of new player to experienced player?
It's probably about 75% new players, 25% veterans.
So how did the game come about?
So we just had one person who is a DM. He's like, he doesn't have like a lot of friends, so he like started talking to all his coworkers, and he's like, I want to DM a game, be in my DM game, like, and be in my game. And then there's a couple of us who are like super into D&D that are like, yeah, we'll play. And like, we're trying to get enough people. And so we like recruited these new people who are
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure. I guess I'll play a little bit. And then they get into it. And now we've been playing for over a year now. So it's a weekly game.
So you've converted them.
Yes, we have. They are now nerds of D&D. I love it.
Well, that's part of being a D&D player. You have to go out there and prophesize.
Yes. Speak the good word.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so what is going on in the stream games that you're playing now currently?
So let's see. Well, in Silver and Steel, we are currently battling. We've currently just saved a turtle god who is big enough to be a small island and like has a volcano on its back. And there were some creatures trying to steal its boon, and we came in and saved her. And so she's now repaying us by helping us. There's a force field barrier along this, and this is a homebrew game. So there's this force field that keeps all of the demons out of this world, and somehow it's gotten a huge tear in it. So demons and evil creatures are like getting through the breach. And so right now we're trying to like close up that gap and like seal it off, and then take care of all the things that have gotten through. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And we're in like this epic battle at the moment, like underwater, because it's somewhere out in the middle of the ocean. So now we're like completely stuck in the ocean, like doing underwater fight, which is a kind of like a logistical nightmare for us players to be like, okay, but we're underwater, so we can't speak our we can't speak our spells. So we have to use spells that you don't have to speak, and then, come up with interesting ways to like figure out how to like do your spells and fight and like swim. And so it's been a very interesting fight.
It basically sounds like Pacific Rim.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is. It is. I love it.
You just need some mechs now.
I was about to say we need to get some big battle bots.
Well, you're playing a druid though, so you can just like turn into sharks and stuff.
Yep. I'm an octopus right now. I'm about to turn in. Don't tell me. I was like, this is what's going to happen today. Is I'm going to turn into a dire penguin, because apparently a dire penguin is something that I can turn into because of things that has happened in the game.
Oh, nice. You just have to watch turning into a shark near Sahagin.
That's exactly what we were fighting. We were fighting Sahagins.
Don't do the shark thing
Really? Okay, why not?
because they can just control you.
Oh my gosh, really? That's
There's
I
no
didn't.
saving throw, there's no nothing. Like if you're a shark, they could just control sharks.
Okay, I'm making a note of that
Now I don't
because
know. I don't know if your DM would do that or not, but I totally would.
oh yeah, I totally would too. If that were a thing, I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I would use that mechanic for sure.
I guess we must have, we were probably doing a video on Sahagan and we're like, wait a minute, this thing, they just do it. It just happens. I'm like,
Oh man, that's hilarious.
yeah, I think so. It's not good. So David wants to know what environment genre would you like to play but haven't had a chance to?
Hmm. I think it would be really fun to play like a noir kind
Mm,
of style game. Something that's a little bit more like mysterious and kind of like low key, where maybe it's not all about battling, but it's about like gathering information the sneaky way. And I think that would be really fun. And like a setting
so,
like that would be cool.
so like Eberron.
Yes, you know what? I haven't played Eberron yet. Can you
Yeah.
believe it? Yes, Eberron, 100%. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I definitely want to play a Warforged. It's definitely on my list.
Eberron definitely has that. Like, I feel like a good, like, I mean, you can run all kinds of different stories in Eberron, but
Mm-hmm.
like the ones that I really like are kind of that noir feeling. Even when the players win, like at the end, they still like they're empty victories a lot of times, and
Mm-hmm.
or they didn't get what they thought they were going to get by winning. Um, so I guess like the Eberron novels I've read have kind of been like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of carried over into some of my DMing.
that's awesome. Yeah, Eberron is fantastic. I need to read more about it. Yeah.
Plus, Eberron, like you could do things you can't do necessarily in other D&D worlds or games. Like so when 5e first came out, I ran a couple one shots, and one of them was escorting someone on the lightning rail. So like we got to have a battle on top of the lightning rail cars and stuff like that. So that was like interesting and something I haven't been able to do in D&D before.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's definitely, I am like you, like I like homebrew mostly, and Eberron is the only world that I've really run that many games in
Mm.
because I think like Keith Baker did just such an amazing job.
Yeah,
Setting.
yeah. I've gotten to see all the art, and I've gotten to like hear about people's games, but I have yet to actually get into one. I actually just got an invite to do an Eberron game, so I'm hoping that my schedule can work out to get to play.
But yeah, game number 6 for the week.
Whew, yeah, it's like, do I dare? Do I
Yeah,
is do am I an addict if I hit 6 games?
yeah. I don't know what the addict number is. I was talking to someone. There were like 10 to 15 games, but they
Ooh,
weren't all like weekly games.
sure, but that's still a lot to keep track of.
It is. Like
I,
so we do a Saturday game, 3 out of the 4 Saturdays, but it like rotates through DMs and kind of groups that me and
mm-hmm,
Ted are in, and then we do like a Tuesday game on on our channel. Then I'm playing in a
mm-hmm.
Pathfinder game on Master of the Game every other week,
Oh wow.
and then I have a game that I run for my wife's son, nephew, and one of his friends. It's kind of like sporadic, and I think we're about to get back on track with that one.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
get a few games going on.
Yeah, I definitely love having different games, like because they're all so different. Let's see, I've got yeah three home games and 2 stream games, and you would think there'd be some repetitiveness, but every game is so different, and there's so many homebrew worlds, and that just it just amazes me the creativity of my DMs.
Oh, and then there's a Saturday morning game, and then all those players, most of those players, that's their only game that they play that they don't stream.
Oh yeah,
Which
wow.
which like that was our best decision when we stopped streaming our home games.
Yeah. I
I
think
was so happy.
I think it's really important if you're a streamer who streams games, that you do have home games to kind of help keep yourself like grounded
At least
and
one where it doesn't feel like it's work.
yeah, where it doesn't feel like where you don't feel like you're on and like
Yeah,
giving a performance. Like you need to be able to sit back and be like, "Oh, I remember D&D. D&D is a game
yeah.
and it's fun and it's to be with friends. You don't have to be performing all the time. You know, you can sit back and kind of just enjoy the game a little more." Not to say that, you know, performing or being on a stream is its own wonderful thing, but definitely home games are a magical thing that you should definitely have in
And
your portfolio of games.
and you also kind of like need different people for a home game versus a stream game.
Yeah.
We were
Mm-hmm.
like inflicting our stream game on our home game, which is a bad idea.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. You definitely need the separation.
Yeah, and well, and so also too is because it's like we kind of just like drafted our friends into doing it, and like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they don't mind and they're okay with it, but it's a different mindset, right? To them, they're
It
just
is.
playing the game, and
Yeah.
to for us, luckily, it wasn't live; it was recorded.
Uh-huh.
So it's like you have a session, and it's like, oh, do I have to go back and remove anything that maybe I don't want online?
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a worry on you doing
So
a live stream. Like luckily I play a character who's just super sweet and would never like accidentally cuss or anything.
yeah.
But yeah, I I definitely get that.
So
Um
we are just past the hour mark. Any
oh,
final thoughts before we head out?
no, no, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And everyone else, until next time, stay
Bye. Thanks,
nerdy.
guys.